Just a few more though, but. And this was good, David, since you talked about schooling and teaching and all that. We'll never run out of math teachers because they always multiply. Now you've heard of the college UCLA, so I'm describing that because I'm saying this. When the smog lifts in Los Angeles, UCLA. Get it? When the smog lifts, UCLA. The math teacher went crazy with the blackboard. He did a number on it. Okay, the title of the message this morning, as you look at your sheet and look up, is Who Are You? Who are you? Isn't that a great question? Who are you? And I think at times in our lives, and this morning especially, we need to be reminded of who we are. Who are you? First, as I look around, I see that we are either male or female. Right? We're male or female, I think we are. And as you know, maybe you don't, Friday was International Women's Day, which I didn't know existed, but it does. And many women marched. And I'm reading this, I've taken this right off the internet. International Women's Day, which is dedicated to championing the countless achievements of women and highlighting the need for the world to keep the momentum going when it comes to driving for gender parity. That is a mouthful. And I'm not really going to make any comment about that at all. But when I heard about International Women's Day, my first question was, what do you think my first question was? When is International Men's Day? And there is such a thing, which I also did not know about. And International Men's Day is on November the 19th. Men and ladies, you get prepared for that since you weren't prepared for International Women's Day. Be prepared for November 19th, International Men's Day. Now again, here it is coming off the internet. International Men's Day is a global day of celebration to raise awareness of issues such as men's mental health problems. But that's not, this is the kicker, is men's mental health problems and male suicide. And I thought, well, that's interesting, that those two things, women are striving for equality and gender parity, and men are worried about mental health issues and suicide. So, you're not going to believe all the other stuff that I read about those 2 days that were pro and con, and I'm not going to get into that. But let's go back to the question of the morning. Who are you? Who are you? First off, you're male and female. Secondly, I think pretty much all of us here are Americans. And we're living in possibly the greatest country to have ever existed. And you can argue amongst yourselves whether that is true or not. I just made the statement, especially in these times, these days, talking about our country being the greatest is kind of scary. So who are you? Well, we are to be, or we should be, Christians. We should be Christ-like. We're to try and be more like Christ in this dark world. That's who we are. We're male or female. We're Americans, and we are to be Christians, and we are to be more Christ-like. And before I read a scripture that I'm going to read for you this morning about the talents, I want you to know that after the scripture, I'm going to read a chapter from a book by Max Lucado that I think ties in really well with what I want to say this morning. And the book is entitled, It's Not About Me. And in this book, in the 14th chapter, he uses a story that was given to him by Rabbi Daniel Thompson. So follow along on screen as I read this familiar story of the talents, and then I hope maybe the story that's contained in there will help us as we try and understand what this story about the talents is really about. Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So the one with 2 talents also gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will make you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with the 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, there is what belongs to you. The master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I want to see if the story that I'm about to read out of the book will help us with the interpretation of that scripture and how it applies to our lives. And I want you to try carefully, as I know every couple of minutes you kind of fade away and then you come back. You fade away and you come back. Try and listen to all this story and follow it to the end. So, you like Jewish authors? The fellow asking the question sat on the aisle seat. I had the window, which meant I had a view of the runway. The mechanical crew was repairing a bird dent on the wing. While they worked, I read. As I read my Bible, the rabbi interrupted. So, you like Jewish authors? The twinkle in his eye betrayed his pleasure in the question. His chest-length mop of a beard couldn't hide his smile. I had spotted him earlier in the waiting room. The tassels from his shirt tail and the hair-cropped yarmulke led me to peg him as the pious, silent type. Pious, yes, but silent? No, he loved to talk. He loved to talk Torah, and I was in for a lesson. Tucked away in the ceremonies and laws of Moses, he explained, are pictures of God. Who could offer a sacrifice to God and not weep for God's grace? Who could read about servants redeeming their kinsmen and not think about God redeeming us? And who could read the third commandment without remembering to live for God's glory? I signaled a timeout, opened to Exodus, and read the third commandment. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. My puzzled expression was enough to request an explanation. Don't think language, think lifestyle, he instructed. The command calls us to elevate the name or reputation of God to the highest place. We exist to give honor to his name. May I illustrate? By now the damaged wing was fixed. The planes, can't speak for the bird, and as we gained altitude, so did the rabbi. I took notes. He proceeded to create a story involving a Manhattan skyscraper. Everyone in the building works for the CEO, whose offices are on the top floor. Most have not seen him, but they have seen his daughter. She works in the building for her father. She exploits her family position to her benefit. One morning she approaches Bert, the guard. I'm hungry, Bert. Go down the street and buy me a Danish. The demands placed on Bert puts him in a quandary. He's on duty. Leaving his post puts the building at risk. But his boss's daughter insists, come on now, hurry up, go get me that Danish. What option does he have? As he leaves, he says nothing, but he thinks something like, if the daughter is so bossy, what does that say about her father? And she's only getting started. Munching on her muffin, she bumps into a paper-laden secretary. Where are you going with all of those papers? To have them bound for an afternoon meeting. Forget that meeting. Come to my office and vacuum the carpet. But I was told, and I'm telling you something else. The woman has no choice. After all, this is the boss's daughter speaking, which causes the secretary to question the wisdom of the boss. And on the daughter goes, making the demands, calling shots, interrupting schedules, never invoking the name of her dad, never leveraging her comments with, my dad said. No need to. Isn't she the boss's child? Doesn't the child speak for the father? And so Bert abandons his post. An assistant fails to finish a task. And more than one employee questions the wisdom of the man upstairs. Does he really know what he is doing, they wonder? The rabbi paused here. We both felt the plane nosing downward. His remaining time was short, but his point was clear. The girl dishonored the name of her father. Not with vulgar language, but with insensitive living. Keep this up and the whole building will be second-guessing the CEO. But the traveling partner wasn't finished. He scratched his bearded chin and lifted both eyebrows as he proposed, what if the daughter acted differently? And then proceeded to recast the story. Rather than demanding a muffin or a Danish from Bert, she brings a muffin to Bert. I thought of you this morning, she exclaimed. You arrived so early. Do you have time to eat? and she hands him the gift. En route to the elevator, she bumps into a woman with an armful of documents. "My, I'm sorry. Can I help?" the daughter offers. The assistant smiles, and the two carry the stacks down the hallway. And so the daughter engages the people. She asks about their families, offers to bring them coffee. New workers are welcome, and hard workers are applauded. She, through kindness and concern, raises the happiness level of the entire company. She does so not ever mentioning her father's name. Never does she declare, "My father says." There is no need to. Is she not his child? Does she not speak on his behalf? Does she not reflect his heart? When she speaks, they assume she speaks for him. And because they think highly of her, they think highly of her father. They have not seen him. They have not met him. But they know his child. So they know his heart. By now the flight was ending, and so was my Hebrew lesson. Thanks to the rabbi, the third commandment shouldered new meaning. Paul, another rabbi, the Apostle Paul, would have appreciated the point. He wrote, "We are ambassadors for Christ," as though God were making an appeal through us. 2 Corinthians 5:20. The ambassador has a singular aim: to represent his king. He promotes the king's agenda, he protects the king's reputation, and presents the king's will. The ambassador elevates the name of the king. May God rescue us from our self-centered thinking. May we have no higher goal than to see someone think more highly of the Father, our King. After all, it's not about, well, you can finish the sentence. You know how the story ends, the rabbi asked as they were taxiing to a stop. Apparently, he had a punchline. "No, I don't." "How?" The daughter takes the elevator to the top floor to see her father. When she arrives, he is waiting at the door. He's aware of her good works and has seen her kind acts. People think more highly of him because of her, and he knows it. And as she approaches, he greets her with these 6 words that you can fill in on your flyer right now. The rabbi paused and smiled. "What are they?" I urged, never expecting to hear the Orthodox Jew quote Jesus. "Well done, good and faithful servant." The phrase that we all want to hear. When this life is over, like we sang about this morning, when everything is changed, when the world is no more, but when this life is over for us and our work on earth is done, what do we want to hear from God, from Jesus? We want to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant," don't we? We do. And I pray that that phrase stays with you. And I've been using this word lately. I pray that that phrase haunts you to thinking about the end of your life and what's to come after that. When you appear before him, will he say, with open arms, ready to welcome you, will he say, Well done, good and faithful servant. I pray that you will live your life so that he can say that to you when that judgment day comes. We're going to sing our hymn of invitation this morning.